It's my great pleasure to welcome you back on this national webinar series, Yoga Ramayana Vishwa Kosha History, a 108 days program. In today's session, we have Dr. Baliram Chaddi ji, who is DLit from S-VYASA University and an authority on Hindu scriptures. In today's session, he'll be speaking about brotherly love in Ramayana.
Namaste, namaskar, good morning, good evening, Jai Sitaram, and a pleasant day to each and every one of you. My name is Mahanji Dr. Bali and Sugreef of the Hanuman Mission here in Canada. I ask you to join for a brief prayer. Om Pranavaho Pavana Kumar Kalabana Pavat Gyanadan Ja Sohradaya Gabasahiram Sarachapa Dhari Atulita Baladhamam Hema Shailabadeham Danujavarkishanam Jnaninama Graganyam Sakala Gunanidhanam Vanaradhamadisham Raghupati Priya Bhakta Vatajatam Namami Goshparikatavarasham Mashakekitaraksham Ramayana Mahamalatnam Bande Anilatmajam Anjananandam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapeshamakshahantaram Bandyalanka Bhayankaram Ulangya Sendo Salilam Yahashokavehim Janakatmajaya Adatanaivadadahalankam Namamitam Pranjalalanjaniyam Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhivatam Varishtam Vatarvajam Varatyumukyam Sri Ramadutam Shanam Pravatye Anjane Matipatalananandam Kajanadrikam Navegraham Parijatalavashinam Bhavayami Pavanandanandam Yatra Yatra Gunat Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kitamastakanjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutam Namatarakshantakam Prem Sabalavir Vichitra Bajrang Bali Mahavir Swami Ki Jai. My dear friends, it's an honor to come to make a presentation to you today on the topic brotherly love in the Ramayana. My dear friends, I would like to start off by saying today in the world of Kali Yuga that we live in, we see a differentiation in behaviors, lifestyles and attitudes among family members, parents, siblings and generations across every religion, every culture and every tradition. Today's topic, brotherly love in Ramayana, we look at a comparison to three cases of brothers and the differentiation or the belief system that they had, and we'll relate it to today's society in Kali Yuga to show the difference in attitudes and behaviors. Now, first of all, we look at Srirama, we look at Bharat, we look at Vibhishan, we look at Ravana, we look at Bali, and we look at Sugreef. Three brothers we can compare. Interchangeably, we'll hear the word Sriram or Srirama, Bharat or Bharata, Vibhishan or Vibhishana, Ravan or Ravana, and we'll change them as we go along. I am from Toronto and South India. I know we use the Rama as against Sri Ram. But the conversation I want to have with you is if we look at the word love in the context of brothers or siblings or family love, what does it signify? It signifies the fact that we are supposed to be able to demonstrate that ability, that caring, that compassion, that embracing or that accommodation as we know it. Now, if we step back a little, when we were all kids, same as Prabhu Sri Rama and Bharata and Ravan and Vibhishan, we would have seen from different episodes of serials on TV, as the case might be, or read in Ramcharitamanas, the love and the affection and the passion they share as siblings at a very younger age. We all do, even myself and all of you who are watching this. So what happens today when we all grown up? Why is the behavioral pattern different? Does it mean we do not love our brothers anymore? Does it mean we have moved away from that family tradition? Or does it mean our belief system have changed? And there might be elements of all of them put together for what we believe in. So if we take Prabhu Sri Rama and Bharata or Bharat as the first conversation, we would have seen the issue of loyalty being demonstrated. The love was there, but loyalty was primary focus. One brother who was honoring the word and the will of his father based on dharmic tradition was willing to give up and lose everything for the sake of his father. One brother, for the sake of loyalty to his brother, was also willing to lose and give up everything for the sake of maintaining that loyal behavior. Now, if the same situation of Prabhu Sri Ram and Bharata was today in Kali Yuga, do you think the younger brother would have gone to stay in a little hut, a kutia as we say, and worship a paduka in the absence of his brother? Or do you think the younger brother would have elevated himself to the throne? All of us would say, in today's world, the younger brother would elevate himself to the throne. So the love was there, but more important than the love, loyalty was there. And in the episode of two brothers, Prabhu Sri Ram and Bharata, for forsaking the wealth, the success, and the happiness that would come from a materialistic world, as Ramayana speaks about, we saw loyalty being demonstrated by two brothers. That's one episode. We take Vibhishan and Ravana. How do we categorize the brotherly love? Again, when they were younger, two brothers, just as Sri Rama and Bharata, were very intertwined, as many of us are when we were younger, or were when we were younger. The episode of kidnapping, as it is narrated in Sri Ramcharitamanas, of Sita Devi by the elder brother Ravana, brought about a behavioral pattern or behavioral shift between two brothers. Ravan believed in power, supremacy, and reign and control, whereas Vibhishan believed in ethics, integrity, and morality. The love was there, the passion was there, the caring was there. That never disappeared, even until the demise of Ravana. Vibhishan showed that love and compassion even on the death of Ravana. So the love was still there, the passion was still there, the admiration was there, but what was not there was the integrity, the morality, and the ethics that Ravan compromised. Vibhishan did not compromise. So in order to maintain the integrity of dharma and dharmic practice, Vibhishan stood on principle. He stood on integrity and he stood on ethics with moral value to do that which is right. He loved his brother, but again, he sacrificed for being possibly coronated as a king later on. He sacrificed all of those values, even sacrificed the sake of brotherly love to do the right thing. So in the first case, we heard about loyalty. In the second case, we're hearing about integrity. Two components of Sanatan Dharma. The third situation we have is Bali and Sugreef. And again, we see the brotherly love, siblings loves, and siblings rivalry, as we would say. But when we grow to that age, we see the difference in behavioral patterns, as I mentioned before. And what we saw in this case, we saw misunderstanding, we saw mistrust, and we saw misvalue based on virtue. So at the blocking of the cave, as we know with Sugreef and Bali, and Sugreef decided to celebrate based on a misunderstanding of the concept of the blood oozing out of that cave, then Sugreef went with his own understanding, with his own belief system, and with his own dictates of how things should be. Now, those are the three situations that I wanted to compare for you so you understand the difference. Now, when we take brotherly love in a general capacity, as demonstrated in Ramayana and as seen in Kali Yuga today, where do we see the variation? Quite often we see ethics are traded, morality traded, integrity traded, principle traded, and personal virtue and values are being traded. And why is that? Why is the quality or the component of brotherly love, which existed in all three cases until the end, but got manipulated by a different human trait or human characteristic trait, I should say, overtook or diminished the love of brothers? Why is that? And we ask ourselves the question today. Now, Sri Hanumanji in Ramayana, in Hanuman Chalisa, is even told that Sri Rama hugged him and embraced him as his own brother. Tuma mama priya bharata samabhai. That they were also treating each other as brothers. Now, why did Sri Rama hug Sri Hanumanji and with that embrace said, "You are dearer to me," or "You are dear to me as my own brother"? Because of the love, the affection, the behavior, the support that he demonstrated. So, the concept of brotherly love always surrounds our behaviors, our belief system, and our values. In the days of Treta, Dwapar, Kali Yuga, and the ages that we pass through, Satyug, Treta Yuga, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga, 4 ages, we always see the differentiation of how families practice truth, philosophy, bhakti, and in today's world of Kali Yuga. So, does it mean the love or the absence of love we're seeing today by brothers are not the same concept of love that we saw in the Ramayana? Or do we see, or are we seeing today that the concept of love becomes second today and the power of greed becomes first today? Whereas in the ages that went by, wealth and prosperity and material gain had never been a factor for 2 of the 3 brothers we demonstrated, Bharata and Vibhishan. It was in the play for Sugreef, and we saw the consequences thereof. My dear friends, when we look at love in the concept of spirituality or dharmic love, we look at how people embrace concepts and tenets of Sanatana Dharma. Ramayana or Ramcharitamanas is that story, that itihas, that documented text that tells us the concept of living on all the ideals, now bhakti, the 9 forms of devotion, of how we proceed with our lives. But brothers have a significant role for each other and with each other. Same as sisters have a significant role for sisters, and then brothers and sisters in that sibling relationship. But we're talking about brotherly love. We saw in all of the ages that we just talked about, a brother would give a brother in Satyug his word, Raghukula Riti Sada Chaliyaye Prana Jaye Parabachana Jaye. We stand and live by our word, which was truth. Today, brothers might love each other, but the word or the concept or the spoken word is like an arrow. Once it's shot, it's gone. But what we see today, brothers who claim to love each other, everything has to be a documented proof. Everything has to be signed. Everything has to be a contract. Everything has to be validated. There's a great degree of mistrust, generally speaking, today. Love might be there or love might not be there. There might be more accommodation today between brothers than love. There might be caring or compassion. But where we see the word love unfolding among brothers in the days of Ramayana, and we see the way or the practices of love being demonstrated today in Kali Yuga, still based on Ramayana, we can see a deviation from the practices of brothers. So we ask ourselves again the next question. If it is not greed, what it is? We know the love may or may not be there, but for argument's sake, we'll assume the love was there. We discuss the material side. What is the other side? The other side that would cause brothers to disrupt that relationship of love or brotherly love, as we say, as spoken for in Ramayana, would be power, prestige. So you have on one hand wealth and success, power and prestige. Today you might see a shift in the belief system or the value system which I talked about. Brothers may or may not believe. You might have one brother have a certain belief and another brother who has a different belief. They still love each other, but the belief or the value system is totally skewed from each other. So what happens as a result? One brother who doesn't have a belief system or value system or system of integrity and ethics will practice what he knows only how he believes, and that belief will make it right for him because that is what he believes. The other brother who has a belief system of moral values, ethics, virtue, integrity will practice those dharmic concepts or the characteristics of dharma, Sanatana Dharma. And the conflict becomes when one believes in the right thing as Bibhishana did versus when one believes in the wrong thing as Ravan did. That's the difference. Value, ethics, and morality comes into play. Now the third concept, I guess, that we talked about is communication and understanding. Many times we see, and this is not only among brothers, we see this among siblings, parents, children, spouses, society. Everywhere we see this, in Kali Yuga today especially. The concept of understanding or appreciation of a difference of opinion. So we saw in that episode with Sugreef and Bali a misunderstanding or misinformation or misrepresentation of the facts or the reality of the facts. And that is caused by one person assuming something to be where it's not and the other person assuming to be something that is not. Communication today would either bring understanding or destroy understanding. Communication would bring trust or communication will destroy trust. And the concept of honor and honoring the elder and honoring your guru and honoring the teacher, that concept has played a role in our lives as Hindus, as Sanatana Dharma practitioners. Hanuman Chalisa start, Sri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nejamana Mukura Sudhar Baranau Raghubar Vimalayasha Jodayeka Palachar Bodhi Natanu Janike Sumirao Pavana Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Harahu Kalesha Vikarasiya Pati Ramachandra Ji Ki Jai Sharanam Prabhu. My dear friends, if we practice the characteristics, the elements, and the principles or conducts of Sanatana Dharma, our love for brothers, for siblings, for parents, for gurus, and for society will always be intact. It will be maintained. The situation we have today, as we see, we're talking about brotherly love in Ramayana, the shift from that concept of personal belief and personal value system to what we're seeing today, to each his own, as we say today. The willingness or the participation to sacrifice something personal for the benefit or the gain of others has been diminished. Everybody wants to be important. Everybody wants to be popular. Everybody wants to be famous. And the challenge we have between brothers today in this society, this world that we live in Kali Yuga, is precisely that. Less people are willing to sacrifice of themselves for someone else. Par upakar, paropukar, selfless service or selfless seva is something that helps us be simple, humble, calm. It's something that brings us shanti and santosh. But when we do not have these values, what we have? We have power grab, money grab, prestige grab, we have situation for wealth grab, and we have less devotional grab, less dharmic grab, which is what is missing. So, as I summarize my little presentation for you today, the concept of brotherly love in Ramcharitamanas or in Ramayana as we see today fuels or is destroyed by our personal belief of how we see things and how we adapt to reality. We know what's written in Ramayana, we know what's written in the text, we know what's written in all the Shastras, the Vedas, Puranas, etc. We know all of these things. But how many of this is being practiced today? How many of us wants to actually practice those things today? How many of us live by virtue and value? How many of us are willing to put ethics, integrity, moral value, and conduct up front? How many of us are willing to trade, to lose financially and otherwise if we sacrifice our benefits, our value system, our integrity? How many of us are willing not to be selected for power, fame, and glory if we comply with moral conduct and virtue? One of the destructive features among many that would help, hurt, hamper, or enhance brotherly love, as was emanated in Ramayana, is the concept of acceptance. Acceptance of traditions, of parampara, as we say, tradition of value, dharmic value, as stated in Ramayana. Once we deviate from the stated text, once we deviate from the dharmic practices, that value system is crushed. And in so crushing, it brings down that true pure love, that prema, or prema as we say. It destroys it. It brings it down. The guilt of wealth, winning, success, and overcoming, power and control, greed, that takes over love. That takes over caring. That takes over compassion. And we see a decline in the behavioral patterns between brothers or siblings or family today. As I leave you, I thank you for your time. I thank you for looking at this small presentation. And I just would like to say to all of us who have siblings, who have brothers, who have families, most importantly to have parents and gurus alive, take their pranams, seek their blessings, and allow yourself to enjoy the darshan of the Lord. Brotherly love, as demonstrated in Ramayana, in Kali Yuga, can still be maintained. We have to be simple, we have to be humble, and we have to be an example. And if we can do those things, our gains are 20 times more beneficial than the gain of trying to go after material wealth. To all you brothers out there, forgive and forget. To all your family members, forgive and forget. Life is short. There is no tomorrow. It has never been promised to anyone. There is hardly a today, many times. And one of the greatest characteristics of a Sanatan Dharma Seva is to forgive, forget, embrace, and move on. So in this context of brotherly love, as demonstrated in Ramayana or in reference to Ramayana, we hope we can see some of the comparisons and some of the behaviors and some of the traits that can help us elevate our lives. To each and every one of you, may you be blessed. This is Mahanji Dr. Bali and Sugreef from the Hanuman Mission here in Canada. And as we leave you, I ask you to just join for a closing prayer. Hari Om Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhoscha Saka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvang Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvang Mama Deva Deva Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Deva Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Harihi Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Hari Om Tat Sat Jai Veer Hanumana.
Such a wonderful session by Mahanti ji, Baliram Chaddi ji. Tomorrow again with another session. Namaste.